Hi everyone. If you watched the last video, it was about four different types of bar models that we've learned so far. Combining, taking out, comparing, and missing part. This video is going to be specifically about two additional types of comparing bar models that involve terms like more than or less than, fewer than, similar phrases like that. All right, so let's take a look at some examples. Uh, Here's one popular type of comparing problem. After their gym class, Raymond and Nilo went to fill up their water bottles. Raymond filled his water bottle with 3/5 of a liter of water. Nilo filled his bottle with 1/4 of a liter more than Raymond. How many liters of water was in Nilo's water bottle? First thing we always do is we circle the key information and underline the question. That's right. So why don't you guys go ahead and do that now? Take 5 seconds. All right, check it out. Hopefully yours look like mine. Very important to note, Nilo filled his bottle with 1/4 of a liter more than Raymond. That does not mean Nilo's bottle has 1/4 of a liter in it. It means it has 1/4 of a liter more than what Raymond has. And as you probably noticed in this problem, the two fractions do not speak the same language, correct? So we need to create equivalent fractions. So there's my next step here. Hopefully your equivalent fractions look like mine, 12 over 20 and 5 over 20. Now is the time, once you've made them speak the same language, that we create our bars. Which Kipster, Raymond or Nilo, do we know the amount of water that they have? Go ahead, call it out. That's right, it's Raymond. So let's draw Raymond's bar and label it with the equivalent fraction. Okay, notice I didn't use 3/5 of a liter of water. That's what it said in the problem. I used the equivalent fraction of 12 over 20. And I labeled it with the word Raymond and 12 over 20 liters. Next step, you have to think about now the next bar we're going to create, because this is a comparing problem. Nilo's bar, should it be longer or shorter than Raymond's? Stop for a second and think about it. Should it be shorter or longer? Okay, go ahead, call it out. Yeah, you're right. It should be longer. And the thing is, we better label it with an X because we don't know how much water is in Nilo's bottle. We're going to find that out shortly. All right, so we're closing in here. We got the 12/20ths of a liter, which was information we found from the problem. But I'm trying to figure out what to do with this 1/4 of a liter, which is really 5 over 20, or the same thing. Point to where on the bar model you think 1/4 of a liter is going to go. Go ahead, point to it. Did you point there? Nice job. 5 over 20 was the equivalent fraction of 1/4. So that's how I put it in this space, because it means that Nilo is what Raymond filled plus 1/4 or 5 over 20 more. So now think about it. Our last step, we need to think, are we going to add these two numbers together to get Nilo, or are we going to subtract? Think about it. Look at the picture. The picture tells all. All right, add or subtract. Call it out. What do you think? You're right. Adding 12 over 20 plus 5 over 20. You know how to do that. That gives us 17 over 20, which means as a complete answer, if you see it all the way on the bottom, hopefully you can, it says Nilo's water bottle was filled with 17/20ths of a liter of water. Check this out quickly. Just so you fully understand, 17 over 20, that's what we just solved for. And it should make sense. You take 12 over 20, you combine it with 5 over 20, and that makes the entire bar 17 over 20. Next up, another type of comparing problem. Let's read this one aloud. Akila and Tiffany were both millionaires last year, so you know they read a lot every night. Last night, Tiffany read for 5/6 of an hour. Akila read for 1/8 of an hour less than Tiffany. For how many hours did Akila read? So why don't you go ahead and take a second, circle all of the key information, and underline the question. Okay, does yours look like this? That's the key information for this problem. You notice once again that our fractions do not speak the same, so we need to make equivalent fractions. Why don't you take a minute to do that? You can pause the video now. Okay, if you're back, check this. 5/6, 1/8. I made them both speak 24ths. So I got it equal to 20 over 24 and 3 over 24. You could have done 48ths as well. Your answer is going to end up being the same. So now I use these equivalent fractions in my bar. All right, who's the person that I know how much they read? Is it Tiffany or is it Akila? Call it out. Yep, it's Tiffany. So I'm going to make her bar first, and I'm going to use the equivalent fraction within her bar. Instead of 5/6 of an hour, I'm going to put 20 24ths of an hour, and that's for Tiffany. All right, you know we're making a bar for Akila. The question is, like last time, is her bar longer or shorter? Don't call it out yet. Just think for a second and reread this piece of information here. All right, is Akila's bar longer or shorter? You were right. Akila's bar is shorter. We don't know how long she read, so we're going to label that with an X. Now, for that little piece of information we haven't put in yet, because we did put in 5/6, it's right there. 1/8 or 3/24 of an hour. Point to where on the bar model we're going to put 3/24 of an hour. Were you pointing there? Nice job. So, this is the difference between Tiffany and Akila and the amount they read. So to find how much Akila read, are you going to take Tiffany's and add it to this? Or are you going to take Tiffany's and subtract it from 3/24? Go ahead, call it out. Add or subtract. This one's a subtraction problem, and I know you guys know how to do that one. 20 over 24 minus 3 over 24 makes 17 over 24. So hopefully you can read the complete answer on the bottom, because you know I like to write my answers in complete sentences. Akila read for 17/24 of an hour. And just so remembering what we're solving for, checking to make sure it makes sense, 17 over 24 was for X. If you take 17 over 24 and you add 3/24 more, you've got what Tiffany read. So our bar model makes sense. Now, you might sometimes see a question that says, instead of for how many hours did Akila read, they might say, for how many hours did Tiffany and Akila read in all? Then you still do the same steps, but your final step would be adding what Akila read to what Tiffany read. And for that, you would get an answer of 37 over 24. And then you can make that into a mixed number. All right, as always, thank you for listening, and call if you have any more questions.